The Nashville Predators added 7 talented new prospects to their pool of young players. Today, we'll talk about what that could mean for the Predators' future in this very competitive league.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Friday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and Friends. I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host with the Hockey News.
We have been wrestling greatly lately with how the Nashville Predators could possibly perform next season. Today, though, we're going to take a look a little further down the road. We're going to talk about the depth of Nashville's prospect pool now that the Preds have cashed in some of that quality draft capital. We're going to talk about who the top prospects are in the Predators pipeline and whether this youth movement could mean potential success for the Predators down the road. We're also going to talk about one new prospect who is having the summer of his life. Totally cannot wait to get to that, Emma. I keep singing the Dirty Dancing song. I had the time of my life when I think about this particular player and like his little life stage right now because killing it. But hang on, we're going to get to that. We are going to talk about the Preds in the pipeline. Of course, we are talking about some of the new players that the Predators added. We are also talking about some of the players like Kimmel and Egor Surin, who have been here for a season or two in the pipeline. The Daily Face-Off is going through each NHL team's prospect pool, and they're kind of ranking who they see as the top 10 prospects for each team and each franchise. Here is kind of the overarching takeaway from the Nashville Predators ranking. And I want this to be a moment of like exhale for Predators fans. Now, I'm not doing PR for the Preds when I'm saying this, nor is the author of the article. Let's just be clear. But here is what is exciting when you look at the Nashville Predators pipeline, Emma, and we're grasping for excitement and joy. Nashville actually has quality center depth in the pipeline. Now, not necessarily in the lineup. I know it feels like we're saying two totally different things, but hear what we're saying. Where we're at looking at next season, we've talked about, center depth, kiddie pool. But Nashville has some quality centers in the pipeline. And I think that's something that Predators fans really can be encouraged about as you think ahead for this franchise.
Yeah, I think, we've talked about it a lot, how, and we have been very critical of a lot of the decisions that Barry Trotz has made when it comes to the Predators' current roster. But I think, and I think he deserves those criticisms. But one of the things that we have also said is that you have to give Barry Trotz credit for the fact that all of those moves that he's made, even though we may not agree with them, and a lot of them we actually don't agree with, are sort of, he was able to make those moves without leveraging the future. The one exception maybe being the Yaroslav Askarov trade, if you think of it that way, that really was one that impacted the long-term future of the team. But otherwise, to bring in, the guys who are the win right now pieces, he didn't sacrifice a ton of draft capital or prospects, like high level prospects. It was nothing like that. So there is still reason to, it's okay. It's okay to be excited about the future here in Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nashville has, when all is said and done, you're going to see Nashville be one of the top 10, 12 teams in the entire league when it comes to ranking the prospect pipeline. Now, we are not out here San Jose sharking it because we can't all be JD Young with Joy, just down the road. But Nashville has done a really good job. And one of the things that has been stuck in the craw of Predators fans for a long time is like, when are we ever going to get that 1C? When are we ever going to get that 1C? And Nashville may have done it this past draft with the 5th overall pick. And I know I hear you already. We're going to talk through the rah, rah, rah. I'm going to un-Charlie Brown teacher you about this, because the number one prospect in the Nashville Predators pipeline, hands down, without question, is Brady Martin. And that's no surprise. I mean, just if you are somebody who is stuck on numbers, be stuck on the fact that he's the 5th overall pick, and that's the highest prospect that the Preds have in their pipeline currently. He was the 5th overall pick. This was not a pick without angst. And I get why there was angst, because you had two more well-known names and quality players. I'm not saying more quality players, but well-known names, James Hagen's, Porter Martone, that were available for Nashville at 5, and Barry Trotz and team opted to select Brady Martin. And I think this is such an interesting conversation, because nobody is going to know who's right for another 2 to 3 years. And then it'll probably be another 5, 6, 7 years before you're really, really sure whether Barry Trotz made a cataclysmic mistake or whether he got it right. But I do think there are a lot of positives about Brady Martin. People are joking about, Barry Trotz said he has the it factor. Just because, look, Barry Trotz did not go out and pick Brady Martin because he's going to be the best at kissing babies in the Gold Walk. Okay. Yes, Brady Martin does have an it factor. And I don't know, Emma, I don't know how to quantify that in a way that is maybe helpful. But when you meet him, when you watch him on the ice, the little bit that we saw him in dev camp, you may not be able to explain it, but you recognize what Barry Trotz was talking about. There is an it factor to Brady Martin.
There is, and I think what didn't help is the overarching, and we've talked about this, the overarching narrative from the national media and some local media too, is that, he's a farmer, he's farm strong. Like, that's the whole narrative about him. And so I think that whole it factor thing got overblown a lot. And so a lot of people chose to look at it as black and white. Like, you're either drafting skill or you're drafting for like a culture pick. It can't be both. And it's like, well,
can't be both.
Why not? I mean, like, Roman Yossi's a great culture guy, but he's also very skilled. I think like it can be both. And so I think that that's kind of what was happening here. Now, I do understand that, there were more skilled, quote unquote, if you're listening to this and not watching, skilled forwards in the draft class. And, we were even talking about this. It was like, whoa, what would be, like, what's going to happen if the Predators end up having to choose between Martone and Hagens at number 5? But you know what? Actually, that decision will probably be made for them, because truly, surely not both of them will make it to number 5. Well, they did. And the Predators picked neither of them. And so that sent people into this rage about like, oh my gosh, they picked this kid who's not even good. It's like, he's just the likable guy. And it's like, no, okay. Is his ceiling as high as, say, James Hagen's? Maybe not. But he's got a really high floor. And I think that more or less what you're going to get from him. And I think if you're starting to build a core for the future, because you have your core right now, Barry Trotz has already decided that's Josi, Forsberg, Saros.
Yes.
And that's your core for right now. You need your future core. This is the kind of guy, Brady Martin is the kind of guy that you start with. He
Yes.
is a center, so literally, but also like the nucleus of that future core. I
Yeah.
think is what's going to be really important here to keep in mind, that it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both.
Right. And so hear us when we say Brady Martin's really freaking good at hockey. And you might not know that because maybe you've never watched the Sioux Greyhounds play. Maybe you've never seen James Hagen's play either. But you're so sure that this was the wrong pick. And look, maybe it turns out James Hagens does outperform Brady Martin, but stop acting like Brady Martin is not a good pick. Somebody who is entrenched in the scouting process, in the prospects pool. I reached out to them at the time of this, and we talked about this on an episode around the draft. Look, at least 10 to 12 other teams had Brady Martin in their top 5. This was not a ginormous anomaly. And he was top 8 for most of the other teams in the league. This is not as big an anomaly as you want it to be. And I know that he didn't start the season, he started the season way down low on the draft prospects list. Well, friends, the Florida Panthers weren't the best team in the league in January. Do we take away their Stanley Cup? No, we do not. Why? Because it's a whole process, as is the draft year. Okay. And Brady Martin did have a great combine. A number of the Preds picks were really good at the combine, which helped them in their overall ranking. And also, I think, making an impression with Nashville. So, look, I think take heart that while he may not have been the pick that Nashville expected, I think Brady Martin is a pick that has a lot of people outside of Nashville saying, hey, this is a top quality center. And friends, who in Nashville does not want to think about a top quality center? Coming up, we are going to mention some other centers of note when it comes to the Nashville depth. We are also going to talk about what this article said about the Nashville Predators blue line. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. We have all been there, logging onto your computer and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you have been dying to see. Live music should be all about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That is where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Do you ever wonder what your view is going to be like at the venue, at the concert of your dreams? Friends, Game Time is going to show you a panoramic seat view before you buy, so there are no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. There are no hidden fees. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Emma, we've beat the Brady Martin horse yet again. But there are some other really good center options that people need to maybe feel a little encouraged about, because friends, we know right now this is where Nashville is maybe lacking that depth. And it's something Nashville Predators fans have been like, we really want to see high quality centers in the system. Third on the daily faceoffs list of Nashville's top 10 prospects is David Edstrom. This is somebody that you and I had talked about that maybe didn't pop off the ice to us, just eye test at dev camp. But this is somebody who I think is going to make a huge difference. This is one of those players where you are going to want to watch Milwaukee Admirals hockey and see what his growth is over the course of the season in Milwaukee. I think it's going to be so good for him. Another one that didn't make the list, but I think we need to keep in the back of our mind, and we've mentioned Joey Willis. He's going to be in Milwaukee this season. Another player who I think is going to have a big year in the AAHL. Number 9 on the list, Egor Surin. Yes, he's a great hockey player, also loads of fun to interview. He is going to be back in Russia. He is under contract in Russia, so we won't see him here in the US this season, but had a great season last year, especially in the postseason. Surin's one of those playmakers who's always doing something, and when he's on the ice, Egor Surin is on the ice. So I think, center, offensive playmakers, kind of the guys you need. There are some potential prospects in the pipeline who could grow into really solid centers for the Predators up and down the lineup.
For sure. And the thing with Edstrom too that is worth pointing out is the fact that he was part of the return for Yaroslav Askarov.
That's
So
true.
it's not like, again, it was a total loss there. I mean, still addressed a major area of need. And yeah, like again, he was not one maybe that immediately just jumped out at me at dev camp, but that's okay. You know how many young sprouts are out there
Lots of
zooming
sprouts on
around
the ice.
at
Yeah.
dev camp, so many sprouts. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't hold that against him. He is one that I'm very interested to see at training camp and then in Milwaukee next season, just to see how he develops and then how they develop him, I mean, is
Yes.
it going to be the kind of like, for a while it was sort of unclear. We were unsure what was going to happen with Fedor Svechkov. Like, was it him or is it Tommy Novak? Like, once you sign Novak to that contract, well, then where does Svechkov go? And then they sent Novak away, and that was the signal. Okay, we are developing Svechkov as a 2C, maybe a 1C, but I would say realistically a 2C. So I would kind of like to see how much, how we see that development trajectory with David Edstrom as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think too, you have to remember, as we're talking about Martin and Edstrom, you're talking about Joey Willis. You're talking about Felix Nielsen is another one, Swedish player, who is in the pipeline as well. Remember that Fedor Svechkov is actually more of that age range than the Ryan O'Reilly, Michael McCarron age range. So even though he's not on this list and listed as a prospect anymore, you have to remember that Fedor Svechkov is a part of the center future, and that also is encouraging, is reassuring. And like I said, this is going to be a player. It's going to be a lot of eyes in Nashville on Svech as he kind of steps into full time this bigger role for him. Offensively, some really good pieces. Some names that we're very familiar with made the list. Matthew Wood ranked 5th. Joachim Kimmel ranked 7th. Of course, we saw some of Matthew Wood in the NHL this past season, towards the end of the season. And I have to say, while he looked absolutely terrified talking to media, and we're so nice, you all, we are so nice, and we just want him to feel comfortable. I thought he looked more and more comfortable and confident in each of the games he played in Nashville. Now, I don't necessarily think he's going to make the roster right out of camp, but this is somebody who I think is going to be a nice offensive piece for the Predators going forward. He's just steady. Matthew Wood is just steady, reliable quality.
Yeah, it was a very limited sample size that we got of him last year, but I do agree. I think that he did look a little bit better, a little more comfortable in each game. And then I think I mentioned this in the past when we've talked about Dev Camp. I talked about it actually with Robbie Stanley when he was here on the show as well, talking about how, seeing Matthew Wood come back at Dev Camp, and you could tell immediately which one of these guys had played in the NHL before.
Absolutely.
It sounds so simple, but that's what you want to see. Like you want that to be clear. So I agree with you. I don't know that he makes the roster out of training camp unless he just blows everyone away at training camp, because in fairness, the one forward spot I think that we can all agree is pretty much up for grabs would potentially fit his skill set on that bottom 6. But again, maybe he impresses, maybe he gets it. I don't know that he does. I think that he could benefit from some time in the AHL.
Mhm.
Honestly, from talking to him at development camp, of course, just kind of talk to him about like what surprised you the most about your time in the NHL, brief as it was, like what
Mhm.
surprised you the most. And he said, it sounds simple, but just how hard it is to score. How hard it is to
Yeah.
score goals
Yeah.
in the NHL. He was like, the goalies here are insane. They're so good. And like it really is, it kind of gives you that perspective, because those of us we watch all the time, we're like, yeah, well, just score goals, Matthew Wood or whoever. But it's like when you're making that jump, like you are reminded, oh, this is the best league in the world.
Yeah.
It's the hardest league in the world for a reason. And so I think that some more time at the AHL would be beneficial for him in kind of tapping into that offensive upside.
Mhm. Yeah, and he looked great, like, he was generating really good chances at times in the NHL, and remember, he, like, skipped a level. He, like, skipped a stair. He went from NCAA hockey to the NHL last season, and again, just a small sample size in the NHL, but I agree with you. I think AHL minutes are just gonna be incredible for Matthew Wood. Uh, Defense, this was really interesting. One of the concerns looking at the prospect pipeline was defense, specifically right shot defensemen. Welcome to Nashville. We're aware. Yeah, you ain't wrong. But there are some really high quality defensemen ranked on this system. Of course, the number one prospect in Nashville's pipeline, post Yaroslav Askarov, pre Brady Martin, Tanner Molendyke. And we've talked at great length recently about, is this somebody who we could see at the NHL level? Certainly think we'll see him at some point this season. Don't know that we'll see him out of camp. Here's one that I was like a little surprised by. 4th overall for the Preds, Cameron Reed, who of course the Predators selected in this draft, 21st overall. He was another player who I thought made a really good impression at Dev Camp. Of course, he came from the Kitchener Rangers. He's really just a good all around defenseman. There's not a zone where he doesn't play a comfortable, doesn't seem, he seems comfortable in every zone, is I guess how I want to say that. Another player who hit it out of the park at the combine. Like, he was 2nd in the fatigue index. Friends, he was 6th in pull-ups. Okay. And you remember in gym class how bad you wanted to be in the top 5, 6, 10 in pull-ups when you did the presidential fitness test. Well, Cam Reed got it done. So haters gonna
Did
hate.
they still do the presidential fitness test? I genuinely am curious. I don't know.
I
If you
mean, I would
know,
be shocked. Let us
drop us
know.
a comment, because
Did
I
you
remember that
have
thing.
to do it too? The
Oh
fitness
yeah,
test?
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
I remember I always like the pull-ups, forget it, but I always crushed at the flexibility test where you have to like
Yeah.
push the thing forward to touch your toes. But I was a ballerina, so I was,
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a leg up there. No pun
I could
intended.
do a couple pull-ups back in the day, but I remember for some reason there were more than one year, friends, where I had gym class right after lunch, and part of the presidential fitness test is running a mile.
Yep.
Do I need to tell you what that gym class was like? I don't think I do.
Mhm.
I don't think I do. It's not
No.
great.
I was not good with the running a mile. I was not good with the pull-ups, but man, I could touch my toes for days. You just sit there and watch. That was all I
I
could do.
I was very good at the wall sit. I don't know if that was part of the presidential
Oh,
test. I don't know if it
I don't
was.
know that it
Again,
was.
if you know, let us know, because
I
we're
could do
busy talking
push-ups.
about hockey. Yeah,
I could do
yep, push-ups
push-ups.
were okay. Sit-ups, I was great.
Yeah,
I couldn't bend over for like 2 days afterward, but I was like determined to be good at sit-ups. But
yeah,
anyway, Cameron Reed would have hit it out of the park if there was a presidential fitness test. And we know this
yeah.
because there kind of was at the combine.
That was the presidential fitness test on steroids at the
On
combine.
steroids, yeah. And he did so well. Not necessarily the biggest guy, he's 6 feet tall, but, he plays a bigger game, and so people are really, really high on Cam Reed, and I think there was a lot of emotional attachment to Blake Fiddler, and I'm not going to lie, it would have been a great story to cover. But I think Cam Reed was really good. He sort of is projected to be a top 4 defenseman when he hits the league and develops. So I think that that's really good. One of the concerns, though, like I mentioned, was right shot defensemen, and 2 players who did not make the list, who are right shot defensemen, Ryan Ufko and Andrew Gibson. Now, look, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. Andrew Gibson, maybe he's not like a top 10 prospect. Andrew Gibson, his ceiling is higher, I think, than a third pairing defenseman when given time in the NHL and as he grows and matures. Now, maybe not. But I think if that's his ceiling, he's going to be one hell of a third pairing right shot defenseman. So I'm not particularly comfortable with the Andrew Gibson slander. Just not.
I'm not either. I'm Ufko, I can understand a little. But Gibson, man, like he was just, I don't love the Gibson slander either. He looks very close to being NHL ready to me.
Yes, he does.
Which is saying something considering he has not played in the AHL yet. So
yeah,
just, I don't know.
Just didn't make the list. It has been noted.
Noted. That's with eyebrow raised.
With a little bit of that. Coming up, there is one so wonderful, pleasant summer surprise for Nashville Predators fans. We are going to talk about the player who is having the summer of his life. We're also going to tell you where you could watch him play. All right, friends, we mentioned Joakim Kimmel ranked 7th. This is a player that's, I'm going to get another opportunity at the NHL level. He is going to be an NHL player. Hear us when we say the things we say. Ryker Lee ranked ahead of Joakim Kimmel on the Predators top 10 prospects list. And friends, Ryker Lee, like if there was 2 hockey players that could do like the dirty dancing lift, Ryker Lee would be Jennifer Grey on the top because he is having the time of his life. He is having the summer of his dreams. This kid is feeling his self. And it is a joy to watch. This kid, puck handling skills remind me of Philip Forsberg. His stick skills remind me of a Ryan O'Reilly. He is just having the summer of his life. This was another player, came in at the combine, lit it up at the combine. Really, really good performance there, not only in the testing, but also in the interviews. Came away really impressing a lot of teams. He is on fire, goes and gets himself drafted, comes to dev camp, looks incredible in dev camp. Really, really great. And now he is playing in the summer showcase. And so, friends, if you have USA Hockey TV, you this weekend can watch Ryker Lee, who is just continuing his parade of what at the summer showcase. 2 goals and an assist in his first game. But the best thing I have seen watching this summer showcase was a defensive play. The USA team was on a power play. They got a Sweden, I believe it was Sweden or Finland. Sweden got a breakaway, headed the other way, 1-on-1, out literally of nowhere. Comes Ryker Lee and with his stick just scoops the puck from behind and turns around and takes off the other way. And I was like, that was magical. I cannot tell you how delighted I have been watching Ryker Lee play. What a joy. This kid is just such a summer joy.
He is. And I have a couple things that I really like about him. Isn't he the one who had like a massive growth spurt like a year before his draft year? Which like if you look at him, he's still like he definitely has some filling out to do. Like he's a spindly thing. But it's like he just shot up. It was like the summer before, I don't know, whenever, maybe not before his draft year, but like it was while he was in high school. It was like in one summer, he grew like 8 inches or something crazy. And it's like, well, I'm sitting here at 5'2" and I'm still waiting for my growth spurt any day now.
He gives you hope. If
It's
Ryker
fine.
Lee can do it, Emma, so can you.
There's a meme going around, or maybe it went around a while ago, and I'm just seeing it now because I'm old, but it was like, "Hey, are you okay?" "No, I've been the same height since I was 12." It's like, that's how I feel. Anyway, enough with my own personal trauma. The other thing that I find very interesting about Ryker Lee, just worth noting. You mentioned that he's done very well at this summer showcase, the World Junior Summer Showcase. He's got now 5 points through 3 games. He is tied for the most points in the tournament with 5 points in 3 games. You want to know who he's tied with?
Who?
James Higgins.
Huh.
Just saying. Just saying. It's one
Interesting.
event. It's one event. I'm just saying, like, let's
Yeah.
all just take a breath and not immediately, and I mean nothing against James Hay. Obviously, he's tied for the lead in points, so he's very skilled. But like, let's not act like Nashville got nothing
In
in
the draft, right?
first round of
Because
the
they
draft.
didn't get Higgins. Yes. Yes.
Just
I
saying.
love that. I
Mhm.
love that. Scott Wheeler just put out a couple of days ago a great piece on Ryker Lee talking about one of the reasons why his stick handling is so incredible. And when I say it is incredible, friends, I mean you just kind of catch yourself with your mouth open catching flies if you watch him and he's feeling it. He's really fascinating to watch. But it was because he was 5'3" playing hockey. And he's like, well, not going to just zoom on up and take the puck from the bigger guy. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to use my stick and figure out how I can get the puck. And then when I have the puck, somebody could come and knock me over and take the puck. So what am I going to do? I'm going to figure out how to move this puck around. And he does it with his head up. Like he had an assist in the summer showcase, and I can't remember which game it was because what is time and space anymore? He had this pass where he was coming in and you were like, clearly this is a shot. And he has a fabulous shot too. Clearly it's a shot. And he comes in and his eyes are dead on, like looking into the soul of the goaltender and finding him wanting, like so play and shot, and then passes it across for the assist.
That's very Philip Forsberg-esque too.
Yes.
Very much so. And I will say too, like, not just like, let's hear it for the short people. But you talk about when he was before he had his growth spurt and he had to sort of like, I mean, not overcompensate, but lean into other areas because, like, obviously you can't make yourself taller. So, you got to like develop your game in other areas. So for him, it was his stick handling. And the fact that he's still, because when you grow that quickly
Oh
in
gosh.
one
Bambi
summer,
on ice.
I would imagine you would be getting used to your new limbs, and the fact that he can still do it with that much skill, like, I
It's
mean,
amazing.
it's impressive to me. Like I said, he's still got, he's got some filling out to do in his frame, I think, but he's impressive.
This is a player to get excited about. Barry Trotz, a long, long time ago, way back 2 years ago, when he became the general manager, one of the things he talked about is I want players who are going to get people out of their seats. Like, I want it to be exciting. Ryker Lee is playing like, hey, I heard you. And in a couple years, I'll be that guy. Like, this is how he is fascinating and fun to watch. And friends, right now, if you are a Nashville Predators fan, you find joy where you can find it. And if it's at the summer showcase watching Ryker Lee, by God, go there. Do it. Because he's so exciting to watch. Now, here's my caveat as a Big Ten Penn State girl. He is going to Michigan State this fall. We're gonna just overlook that.
But Gavin McKenna.
I
There
know,
you go.
but also, wouldn't it have been so fun to have Gavin McKenna, Aiden Fink, and Ryker Lee? Like, literally, that's like my trifecta of like little hockey sprouts.
Well, we take
But
what we can get.
we take what we can get. And, I wish him nothing but good luck. I don't know how this kid is not exhausted. your draft year is nuts. I mean, it is nuts from start to finish because it's not like it just kicks off at the combine. I mean, it is nuts. You're talking to scouts and people are coming to your games and you're concentrating on, hey, what do I need to improve? Like you are aware you are being scouted. You get to the combine, which is nuts. So it's like presidential fitness test on crack. And then you go to the draft, which is like your childhood dream unfolding in front of you and you black out and what just happened. And by the way, the minute you're done at the draft, you go right to Nashville to dev camp and you meet all these coaches and all these other players and you're learning what Nashville expects and setting the standard. And then, oh, wait, then he went to Michigan State because he needed to do some strength and conditioning off-season training there. And then, wait a minute. Could you come to the summer showcase and light it up, Ryker Lee? Ryker Lee deserves a fat nap. I don't think he would take one. He seems like the kind of kid who doesn't need one, but Ryker Lee, he's going to need a fat nap at some point in time. But watch him. Summer Showcase. Again, you can watch it on USA Hockey TV. There is a subscription fee for it, so keep that in mind. I always hate when I can't send you to something free to watch because it is just, he is joy. Teddy Stiga, another one who's the top 10 on this list. He is lighting it up at the Summer Showcase. He has been delightful to watch. Rombach, who we picked up, the defenseman, he is playing there. Did spend a little bit of time in the timeout box, but he's been really, really good when he's been on the ice too. So a lot of fun Predators prospects to be watching. But friends, Ryker Lee, he is Jennifer Grey in it. He is having the time of his life. And it is so great to watch. Like 100%.
In that Scott Wheeler article in The Athletic, which if you have an Athletic subscription, you should read it because it's a really, really good.
It is.
Really good article. But that's where you learn his nickname is the Wizard. They call him the Wizard. And with those puck handling skills, I get it. Yes. Wizardry.
It is. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what house he would belong to. That's a podcast for another day, friends. What Harry Potter house is Ryker Lee? You know what? Next time he's around, I'm going to ask him if he watches Harry Potter and if he knows what house he would be, because that's the kind of hard-hitting journalism that we sometimes get a chance to do, but mostly it's hockey and stats. But, you know, every so often we get a nugget. That is a really good summary of the Nashville Predators top 10 in the pipeline. Again, you can check out this article at Daily Faceoff, where they're ranking every franchise's top 10 prospects. Just an interesting breakdown, some interesting changes after this year, and a little bit of hope for Predators fans on a Friday. Everybody needs a little bit of hope, but especially on a Friday, friends. Next week, Emma and I are wrestling with the existential questions. We are kicking off a series, 3 questions about. We're going to talk about 3 questions about Barry Trotz, 3 questions about Andrew Brunette, and 3 questions about Steven Stamkos. So tune in next week while we wrestle with some deeper topics and deeper questions as well. Before we log off for this week, though, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on the beach because that's where I will be headed after this. And you can also find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work covering the rest of the NHL at the Hockey News.
Now, don't go looking for her at the beach. She deserves a vacation. So we're just not.
That's why I didn't say what beach, just on a beach.
That's
hopefully
true.
One with no cell service.
Yes, there you go. You can find me just knocking around my house here because I don't have a vacation planned yet. Don't worry, friends. I'll get a vacation. I'll be so fresh by the time the season kicks off. My joy won't be gone like for 3 whole games in. It'll be great. You can find me online at @AnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We hope you guys have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.